Winter, spring, summer, fall, seasons change, we still keep it together.
Hey, Beverly Hills 90210 fans! Are you ready to dive deep, episode by episode, storyline by storyline, character by character, as we break down the making of your favorite zip code? With your hosts, Charles Rosen.
Did I say that?
Harry
This
Mullen.
heinous thing about the real person, and we're going, what? We're getting rid of this guy.
Pete Ferrero.
I'm feeling wonderful. Kathleen looks TV crush-worthy.
Like so many special guests. And all your questions. Live on the Beverly Hills 90210 show. Oh, yeah. Everybody dance now.
Well, here we are back on the Beverly Hills 90210 show, and we are diving into season 7 with Larry Mullen. We are being joined by Becca Shin, a super fan. She's one of our Patreons, and we're going to start bringing some of our Patreons here to guest with us at times. How are you, Becca? How's everything going? Becca, I can't hear you. Nope, totally lost you. Yeah, you might have to leave studio and come back in. Yeah, but Larry, you are
so
out.
good to see you, Becca. Yes, I just was thinking how much I miss Chuck. Hearing him do his falsetto "Everybody Dance" now. I haven't seen him. I've been out here on the East Coast for into my third week out here, and the weather has just been pretty raw.
We did ask Chuck to come on this week, and I felt like he was working for a campaign. He was like, "I'm very busy with Venice Beach politics right now."
I know. Becca, speak.
Can you hear me now?
Better,
Yeah.
yes, much better. But it is interesting. We do have to get the band all back together, and I know that will happen at some point soon. But Becca, how are things in Philadelphia?
Philadelphia is great. I love it. I love it here. It needs to get warmer. It's supposed to get warmer next week. It's supposed to be in the 80s. But
Wow.
it's supposed to be like 82, but it was very cold and rainy last week. I think it rained for like 8 days straight. So.
And are you getting the wind we're getting?
Yeah, the shutters were like falling off my apartment complex.
I have a terrible conspiracy theory that we're
here
not
we go.
focusing enough on the climate change affecting wind, because all over America, when you talk to people, they all remark how the wind is much stronger than they ever remember and consistent, going on for days at a time.
And where are you going with this, though? Where's the theory? You think things are way worse than what we think?
I think we're not mentioning wind. I think it's just all part of the same climate change thing that the Earth is changing. We've a lot of civilization is affecting things.
Real quick, Larry, baseball talk. Not going so well for the Red Sox this year.
They won a game last night. I mean, they might be winning now. I hope, maybe even. I don't know. Let me see.
No. I don't know. I know the Mets are doing well, but not right now in this particular moment, unfortunately. As I look below, Larry, last week in New Jersey, I got to meet up with a couple of our fans. I saw Maggie, who's always a regular, but I also met this girl named Dorkzilla. That's her screen name. I think her name is Sarah, and she's just a listener. She is not one of. She's never watched the show live.
I see I know the handle Dorkzilla. I'm familiar with her. I know she's a fan of the show and a friend.
Yes,
that's great.
She was super cool. She's got this whole Metallica story. I got to have her on one time so you guys can hear about it. But it was really fun. She was so sweet and so complimentary to the show. So it was nice. Yes.
I want to know, did you send Becca the digital copy of Judgment Day?
No, I bet she has seen it. This is one of her favorite episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's one of my probably top 10 favorite.
'Cause
Season 7 is my favorite season.
Oh, excellent. In recent looking at it again, I'm really appreciating it more. From fresh eyes. But I wanted to give the credits on this episode. It's Judgment Day, directed by David Semmel, who we've had on the show. He's a fan of the show and done a lot of stuff, and a lot of mine. He did the Stones episode. And he was my director as an actor too.
Right,
I'm very close to him.
Is he an actor's director, Larry? Is he an actor's
Yes, he was an actor's director. And it was written by my really longtime friend and someone I love, who's no longer with us, Phil Sabbath, who wrote some really wonderful episodes, including With This Ring. And he also wrote Graduation Day with me, the last episode of season 7. And it was edited by Jerry U. Frizzell. And I hope Jerry's watching.
You found Jerry?
Yeah, we friended on Facebook today. Jerry edited 85 episodes, including a lot of my favorites, Divas and Vital Signs from season 4. Plus, You Say It's Your Birthday. It's just so many wonderful episodes. And he's going to definitely try to get him to get his perspective on what's going on.
And we've seen
post-production.
We've seen the dailies. So it's not an easy job. You know what I mean?
Yes, in fact, we've seen dailies from. In fact, we should show some dailies from You Say It's Your Birthday, because we have them.
We might trigger an editing PS.
Maybe Jerry has dailies. Jerry, if you have dailies, let us know.
Jerry might have dailies.
Yeah, he might have dailies. He might have saved something, some goofs and stuff.
Wait, speaking of your friend Phil, I wanted to share these pictures. We've shared these before, but this is your buddy Phil Sabbath,
right? That's my
right?
wedding day. That's Phil. He was not my best man. My brother was, but he was there for the wedding. We looked like gangsters in 1977. That's us, Phil and I, in a show called Disasterland. Yes, that was good. That was good. 1972, and that's us. We were in a play called Free Ride about hitchhiking in 1972.
Well, let me ask you this.
He was my theater buddy. He was my doppelganger. We were writers for many years, and I had to coax him. He was a hippie to the end, and I had to coax him to come down and help me out season 7, because I felt that we needed another writer. And he lived in Vancouver at that point. I had no interest in it.
I was going to say, had Phil seen an episode of Beverly Hills 90210?
Well, I think he had done a couple of episodes the year before. I had gotten him to write some. I think he wrote Angels We Could Have Heard on High, the Colin cocaine episode, Christmas episode, Cindy coming back. And so, but he wasn't part of staff this way, so I had to kind of coax him down, and we threw some money at him, and he came, and he got to buy himself a house, and then he just died really young of a blood disease, which I'm still bitter.
Oh, so sad. BC Poster Girl says season 7 was probably the most emotional season for me during the Charles Larry years. So that's really fascinating to me. I wonder what made it so
put a lot into it. I mean, look, we love the characters as much as the fans at that point. We felt, we felt the responsibility of doing that kind of stuff and putting them a certain way. Looking at this episode as a whole, even though it's we just have other little stories within it that are really working well. Besides the Judgment Day story, and just to give a little oversight in that, I totally remember coming up with this episode with Phil. I was living in Santa Monica, and we were on my deck, and we were kind of stuck because we had just come off of thinking about all the Sweeps episodes. So this is like the first one after Sweeps. And we just said, what we're going to do is keep challenging this relationship, and that's always good when you could. I say this before because we're manufacturing. We vertically integrate the characters rather than bring in guest stars to cause the stories. Vertically integrate the characters. Challenge the friendship of the two of a great friendship. And that's what we did. We set the thing up in the episode before. It's Desperate Steve doing stupid Steve things, and then really, I mean, what could be worse for Brandon than this after he's built all this stuff up? And so yeah, I'm seeing it again. And Rebecca, I really hadn't seen the thing in full since probably that time. It just really was an episode that I didn't really think much about really at the time. I mean, I knew it was good, but I just that whole season was kind of I don't usually bring it back because I associate other things with it. But so it was fun to see how it came together.
Becca, you said that this is one of your favorite seasons. So why is that? Why is season 7 one of your favorites?
I think for me, I feel like it was the most realistic season, like for me, because I guess when I started watching it, like when I started watching 90210, I was in that season of my life. Like it was my senior year of college. And so I automatically like kind of had some type of connection with it. But I feel like I know Charles, like in the beginning, he said that it was supposed to be Beverly Hills. So they were supposed to be like kids where they were growing up and, they were ordinary kids with extraordinary lives. But I felt like all of their struggles, like Donna, like David struggling with mental health, and you had, Brandon and Steve plagiarizing, like those types of things actually happened in like where I went to school. And so it was very easy to connect with those storylines when that type of stuff was happening around me, and it made me feel nostalgic because unfortunately my senior year it was COVID, so like I didn't have that type of thing. So it was definitely gave me some type of comfort in being able to live through those characters and those stories. And it was just something that I connected with. And the age storyline I love, and I love obviously Donna being like held hostage. That's a great episode. Like I think there were just so many episodes that are so memorable that when I think back, I'm like, that was an amazing season, and I'll watch it forever.
Okay, so let's go back, Larry, to the previous.
Well, I really appreciate that. Those are
Yeah.
But you know, I just want to say one thing to that, because a couple of things were important to us, that we earned moments, that we earned emotional moments. We didn't shortcut to them. Just all of a sudden say, I love you. You know, you had to build, there had to be an emotional reality. That's what we strove for, you know, that earned moments that was important. I'd forgotten that, so it made me think of it.
I wanted to go back to the previous episode, which is If I Had a Hammer, I think is the name of that episode.
Yeah.
And in that episode is where all of this groundwork is laid out, but we don't even realize that we're like at the start of it, it feels like Steve is just doing a goofball thing and handing it over to Muntz. And then it becomes a really big issue in that episode.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I have to say, I did not watch that episode. Was Randall in that episode?
I think Randall has come back in that episode, right?
Because what's great about this storyline is which is fairly political, and like I was watching for the Patreon, I went, oh my God, this is a teaser with no kissing. Like, what's going on here? But you know, again, it's the big relationship, and you know, there's some cool stuff. You just have to stay with this one.
The thing about bringing back Scott Paulin, is that his name? Scott Paulin is he's Professor Randolph. Yeah, I want to say that we've invited Scott Paulin on this show many times to come on, and I actually thought for a moment that he would consider coming on today. We talked to his agent twice. He declined. Yes. He declined twice today in the same day. So,
you know, I think sometimes when you play the villain on the set, people treat you like the villain. Because they're in character, and I think it becomes an unpleasant experience unless you're used to playing the villain.
What I've written it off to is that he's just so shamed about what he attempted to do here to Brandon in this.
I know, like, you know, he was such a
horrible. He was absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty sharp. I mean, look, I had helped. I mean, I think I had, you know, I created the character. I mean, I was the first one through on this one. I created this sports obsessed teacher, which really served well when he went against Brandon there, and it made for kind of colorful dialogue, which Phil was really good at, and you know, Jason got a chance to really be out of the box in this thing a bit too, acting wise. And David Selman kind of really, the director, pulled out some pretty cool stuff out of him.
Wait, can we go back
and
to
of course we got Nick Pryor just reacting
Nick.
Up on the tribunal, the great Nick Pryor playing Chancellor Arnold.
The Scott Paulin thing, though, you said that's a character. You created that character.
Yes.
Or Randolph.
Yeah.
Randall.
Yes.
Do you remember Scott Paulin auditioning for Randall? Do you remember liking?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it just, you know, it was just, there was a sharp, there was kind of a, you know, we knew we were going to go a little bit. He was going to, you know, he was going to be, first of all, part of the thing was he was going to get Brandon involved with Deshaun. I think that was the first use of him, as I believe. I didn't think we really had the whole Lucinda thing down when we first created. But then, you know, we just bury these people. They just serve the show. As I often say, sometimes characters, you know, you got to serve the show, and that's what he did. He played a bad guy, a despicable guy, and in this episode, he gets his just desserts at the end, which is fun.
I just want to. I'm just briefly going through the history of Scott Paulin on 90210. But then Chuck gave him an opportunity to direct some episodes, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not quite. I would more likely think it was Paul Wagner. You know.
Mm-hmm. And
in fact, it might have been someone Paul, you know, really knew and was championing. You know, Paul was really the guy who would select the director. We were too busy writing stories, so that would be Paul Wagner.
And he directed the Dreams of Dylan McKay.
Yes.
And there may have been a conflict in his directing.
Yes, I think there was. I know Chuck always talks about how difficult that show was to put together, and I think he, even though he also he just felt he didn't get enough footage. I think basically,
Right.
That's commonly what happens with young directors, and you trust your other people, and But
So
he
that's-
directed other stuff for us, and he was totally fine. Again, it's a manufacturing process. It's not a masterpiece medium TV.
But he did come. He
now
did
it just seems like a masterpiece.
Despite all of that, whatever happened, that conflict, he did come back for these episodes to reprise his.
Because we paid him to. And but again, they're professional actors. That's your job is to show up in the set, know your lines.
Maybe that's what we should have done: is offered him
better lines. You'll be given better lines.
To pay him to come on this to the 90210 show.
You know what? It's possible. Maybe he's got a cameo thing, but I don't know where. I didn't look up his IMDb, so I don't know what it would say.
No, I haven't checked in a while.
If he had a directing career or not, I just don't know.
He's really good in this, though, and he's really good as Professor Randall.
And he has the worst glasses in television too. Like he has these little kind of things on his glasses. So
some of his outfit choices in the court.
He's a very good actor. We knew he was a good actor. He might not have even read for the part, frankly. He was he had done a lot of episodic stuff, and he was considered a strong actor, and it was.
So this whole thing starts, and we are, like you said, we are seeing the issues coming up between Steve and Brandon, and it's not something that we see a lot of. I mean, we definitely have seen strong conflict where Steve does something bonehead. I feel like even in that season with Randall, there was something like that. But I mean, so this is really
the first season. Steve has a fraternity thing. He has to steal the ball, the signed baseball.
So it's great that you are pulling from that with this. There's so many layers here of what you're pulling from.
Well, these characters are real to us, so their histories were real to us, and we knew the fans knew, what was going on. So we always felt, that's what made the show again keep that emotional reality. And the other thing was, as Becca was saying, she was going through her senior year. Well, at that time in television, you could really be linear. We would lay our season out as if it was that time of year. November, you're going home for Thanksgiving, and all those things were happening to add to the emotional reality of what we were trying to create.
Your background's very dark, Larry. I mean, it's nighttime where you are.
I know. Yes,
but Becca looks like there's still some light in her day. Do you notice that?
No, it's just maybe she's in the city.
Well, yeah, doesn't the sun set? Shouldn't it set with Larry earlier than it does with me?
Definitely.
Because he's higher on.
Definitely.
Well, maybe a little bit. What time is it now? It's 8:17.
It's 8:17, Larry. Something's odd is happening on Becca.
I live in a place where there's not a lot of light. We have light.
Fair enough.
You have to have
Pitch black where Larry is.
Pitch black. Pitch black. One time you had turkeys in the background.
There's turkeys. Probably they're gone. Skunks are out now. Probably. We got
all right. So this thing with Steve and Brandon really takes off, and now you're and it's what I said to you on the Patreon that I think is interesting is it's not over a girl. It's over something that matters so much more to Brandon. It's his paper. It's his writing.
Exactly. And then you've got this other thing happening because Steve, of course, is dating Claire, the chancellor's daughter, and all these things are interweaving. But you're right; it's Brandon's reputation, and Steve being a friend of Steve is a total, is a mistake. I mean, it's gonna sink his life.
Rescued him from a frat party once. He rescues him all the time. He's sticking his neck out.
And we let that play out. I mean, just Jason has Brandon just simmering in this episode. He's just simmering under his skin in this episode. He's so angry and outrageous, and he's got to defend himself, and he's got all this repartee with Randall, and then the whole thing with Claire and Steve. It's interesting. Again, we did that a couple of times, but playing the triangle in this way of Steve, Claire, and the father. Because I think maybe 8 episodes later, Steve again is caught streaking before the graduation, and again it's another big problem. But
that's why people are all Claire and Steve. Why is Claire so hard on Steve? Because he does all these stupid things.
I was just going to say that I feel like rewatching it when I watched it like the first 3 times, I was like, I feel like Claire was a bit hard on Steve. And then looking back, I'm like, okay, you had the thing with Dick Harrison earlier in this season. You had the fact that Steve was like kissing another girl at the party that was at Mark Reese's house. the fact that he did this, then he was streaking like he really didn't have many redeeming qualities from her.
Looking at it now, I myself don't like what we did there. It's kind of like when Ray and Donna, when their thing was stringy out, and Ray was a little bit mean and stuff, and it's just we knew we had to keep these things going, and it's just we just should have been able to got different kind of performances. Looking at it now, I'm not. I don't like the Claire stuff with Steve. It gets too much. If people are so if it's so painful, then just split up.
Mm-hmm.
But Steve, true to his form, always would come back and save the day. See, that's what's so beautiful about the episode. And Brandon says it. There's a line in the end. I think he says, "Well, Steve, you pulled my bacon out of the fire." Of course, you started the fire.
I thought Claire.
It's a good line.
I thought Claire looked great in this. She looked really cute in most of this. So that's always an important point for me to make in these episodes. I wanted to going back to this thing. It becomes the trial of the century. You know what I mean? Like these guys. Brandon takes this kangaroo court and turns it into. I mean, he is representing himself. He's. We don't even get Jesse Vasquez. He's doing it all on his own this time. Not the first time that he's been in court at campus. So.
I gave him a good chance to play some different colors and stuff, and something where there's real stakes, which was good. It wasn't phony. It was real stakes. It really does happen. People plagiarize, stupid, and you get punished just the way that was going to happen. He was going to get caught into it too, and that's the whole beauty of it. Steve plea bargains out basically, but Brandon can't admit guilt.
Well, I want to ask you about that because there is an offer that's made. If you just Chancellor's essentially saying everybody plead guilty. I'm going to take it easy on Steve,
right?
But because Brandon probably has political aspirations, maybe, or maybe to run a newspaper one day.
Yeah, like a small city newspaper. Yeah, aim high.
Yeah, I mean, because both of those things are going on, this Brandon's not going to cave into something like this.
No, it's it makes sense. Again, it's a little bit dry. The other thing I noticed about this episode, there's like no guest cast at all. Like the people sitting in the tribunal have no lines, so they're just extras. And there's nobody else. Like there's the other part of the story is Valerie trying to get David to invest in the club, and also causing a little bit of friction with Donna and stuff, and the Donna and David stuff. And then we have actually a fantastic scene in the dining room with Felice Martin and Dr. Martin.
I mean, there's so many things.
Classic scene. They never get to the meal.
so many things you just said. Okay, so the thing is, I didn't even remember seeing this on the watch long, but David and Donna are riding bikes. This is all.
Yeah, that's right. Because she's trying to get him healthy. He just had his breakdown in Vegas maybe a couple of episodes ago, and she's being a friend basically at this point, really just a good friend, because she cares about him. And we see him riding bikes. No stunt people either. They're actually pedaling.
It looks like I was going to ask you. It looks like them riding bikes.
Yeah, David Semmel is a wonder maker there. He made them actually really work hard. Probably takes them that, I'm sure. Don't have the dailies. And
then we go to dinner with the Martins again. And it just never works out. I don't understand.
She's saying what everyone's in a way thinking. It's the elephant in the room. Is my daughter going to marry someone who's psychotic? They're going to have psychotic children. I mean, Felice is already projecting, and Dr. Martin has to get everybody off the ledge. Which is a great. He just was terrific in the series. I just hope Michael Durrell is well. We can't seem to get a word on him. His representatives won't let us through, so I suspect he's incapacitated in some way.
I mean, let's not go that far. We don't know what's happened. I don't know. We don't know what's happened, but he won't obviously come on here for. Yeah. So, and he's
but Catherine Cannon has. Oh. She always just has this character, Felice Martin, down. She is just, she's never wrong, but she's never right.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I think in some of the earlier episodes where you had Donna and Felice get into something, it was kind of like Felice being shallow, like, oh, he doesn't make enough money, or he's, not Christian, but this one, it was kind of like, well, she has a point. Like, it was
I know.
it was a valid concern, and obviously, like, Donna had the tender moment with Dr. Martin, which is like one of the best scenes I think in the whole series, because it was such an important conversation. But it was like, okay, I think you actually got a little bit of a point there. Like, you weren't like, oh, she's saying something that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really struck me that way too. And yeah, you're right. The Don and Dr. Martin stuff. Yeah, that was really, really sweet. I really liked that. And that was
The thing is
off,
though,
we got some more stuff with them too. We got the whole thing coming up where she works for
him.
I think in a couple of episodes happened, or
the
job. I think she gets a job like helping him. She bails him out because he almost writes the wrong prescription and kills somebody. I know.
Yeah.
I think I wrote that.
Have we covered that one? That's a fun one to cover. We have to cover that one.
That job? Didn't we do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was. You're right. Yeah.
It was job. I wrote it. I remember because I kind of took off the basic thing of the James Stewart thing. Where the guy he loses all the money, the brother loses all the money.
Yes. But I will say though,
it's a wonderful life. The wonderful life subplot of.
Was there ever talks? I'm just curious to make a dinner go without a hitch, like.
No, it's just, Dr. Martin has to grin and bear it. But, it's pretty good this one. Again, she has a point, though. I mean, you have to discuss these things.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. But it was wonderful to see Catherine Cannon just do her
I thought it was
magic
kind of cool, like that David, he walked away from the table. David is usually typically someone that will sit there and be polite, but he walked away from the table in that moment, right? To take a breather.
He's also under the care of a doctor,
right?
Recommended by Dr. Martin, so that was good. So yeah, I mean, maybe the doctor said don't engage people, whatever, protect yourself.
Let's hope.
That was the motivation. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Then the other part of that was the Valerie David, the temptress.
Well, let's go on. Let's go to there. Let's go to that. We know that in Speechless of a year or so ago that Valerie reveals that she slept with Ray to Donna. So there's really no trust between Donna and Valerie at all. And Donna's a pretty trusting person.
Yeah, no, she's very cautious with Valerie. She doesn't trust her, and that's the reason she doesn't want David to invest. Not because it's a bad investment, not because it's got to be too stressful. It's basically because of Valerie being in close proximity. She's just a viper. Tiffany looks fantastic as Valerie. She's playing through the other part of this thing. That was the Brandon story, which is the great Brandon Nat scene. There's a classic Brandon, my father, just like what my father would say.
Yeah.
We kind of give some life to Jim in Hong Kong. She always wanted to keep those people alive. We always want to bring them back. I mean, we always would ask, can we bring them back? Can we bring them back?
Mm-hmm.
Just sometimes.
Are we indicating that Nat and Jim Walsh spoke earlier? Because they said the same thing.
Oh, no, that was just both. He's like a father figure now.
Got it. Okay.
It was a soul fathers.
Okay, fair enough. But David is going to invest in the club. That is going to become.
I forgot. Is that what's happening?
I think that is what's going to happen. Yeah.
Excellent. So glad.
All right, and so then we also have this stuff with Mark Reese's. Before we go to
that, what also hangs in the ether is now David's already had his fling with Valerie already. That's over.
Mm-hmm.
David has slept with Valerie.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really heats the underlying thing for Donna too, because Valerie can give him something that right now she's not prepared to. So that's really the tough part of it. And David has to say, no, I want you at that point. There's a nice little moment between them there. The kiss is fairly chaste, actually. I was a little disappointed in the kiss. It should have got a couple more beats in it. But there's a nice kiss between them, which is just, again, it's the beginning of their relationship. They're not back together.
I feel like I love Valerie. Valerie's like my favorite character besides Kelly. But I definitely, and I talked about like on one of the other podcasts that I loved David and Valerie together. But I think that the scene where she specifically says, if you're not going to keep your promise to me, then I need to know now, was very like, I feel like Valerie is not very manipulative with David, but in that aspect, I was like, that was really manipulative. Like to say like, oh, if you're not going to keep your promise to me when you know he's in a very vulnerable place, I was like, oh. And then after the whole Kenny storyline, I was like, oh no, like Valerie's really, there's really not many redeeming qualities right now. Obviously, I love her. She's my favorite
The
character.
only thing we could do is bring in someone worse than Ginger.
Exactly.
That was one of the classic things, how you make her look good. Someone worse. Yeah, exactly. It's always a good trick when you're doing stuff. No, she just goes down that road. I'm just trying to think where it ends up in that last episode of the series. What happens with Valerie? I have to really think about it.
Well, she does tries to invest with Bill Taylor.
With Kelly's
Taylor.
father, right?
Bill
She
Taylor.
thinks it's Kelly's father, but it's really the
Great
guy from.
storyline. Yeah, it was.
Right.
Yeah, maybe season 7 is pretty solid. Actually, the more that
it's great.
What's that?
I said maybe season 7 is pretty solid. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Despite everything that was going on,
everything was tied. There's a lot of vertical integration of the storylines, and look, we'll get to that one. The whole Steve and Claire, the end of that relationship. That's we should talk about that sometime.
Some point,
graduation day maybe, or
we have to do that.
Touched upon the
Donna and David thing. Yeah.
But what else was in this one?
In this.
The high point of this one really is the final trial, and Steve, in true fashion, coming in the last moment. He's sick. He comes in, and he proved basically, that he was an idiot. He failed every test, even though Randall said that he kind of had obviously copied Brandon because they had the exact same thing. It was really highly circumstantial. I was a little bit disappointed in that jurisprudence there, but Steve anyway comes in and proves that he's a total dope. And hardly seemed possible in the odds. I should have had like a line about the batting, like a low batting average, a low percentage.
Like 14. I'm like, this is awful.
I know.
Really
How does he even still in school at this?
Steve, again, the whole. If you remember, the first day he goes through the math placement test, he cheats on the placement test.
Yes,
which is great, and he doesn't have to take math. This kind of happened to me, so that's why I was always attracted.
Wait, what do you mean this kind of happened to you?
Well, when I transferred school from Georgetown University to study drama at Ithaca College, I had met the chancellor. He had come to the summer stock thing and met me. And I just went there. And I told him what I had taken. They said, "Okay, well, you'll take this, this, and this." So I never ever took math, which is probably bad, but no, I avoided it. But Steve, anyway, this was a great turn on. Yeah, Steve does so well in the thing that he doesn't have to take math, and he needs to be challenged in other things like folk music.
Steve being sick. Why? What are we doing there? Why is Steve sick?
Well, it just it's probably not necessary, but I think it adds to the fact that Claire thinks he's faking. I think he's breaking down. I mean, the relationship thing with Brandon, the loss of that friendship has got to be devastating, and the terrible mistake. And he's got, and there seems to be almost no way out of it.
I mean, he literally comes into the birthday party and everybody's talking about him. You know what I mean? He's so upset.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, we have that. But I was going to say one thing. The actor kind of blew a line, which I remember at the time thinking, "Oh shit, we should do a pickup, but maybe it won't matter." But when Steve explains what he did, he says students often keep their papers. It's supposed to be frat members all keep the papers or whatever. There was another line which basically indicated that the fraternity was keeping it. So it always bothered me. It bothered me.
Well, it is a valid point. It's never. I've never noticed it as a fan of the show, but now that you mention it, it does. Why would Steve keep his paper? You know what I mean? Like
for studying things, the fraternity kid. And I went, oh, okay. Like I said, I felt that's probably little things like that. Remember watching it with Phil, going, oh, geez, what can we do?
But by the same token, it's like, did Steve have this dastardly plan to save the paper, knowing that one day this moment might occur where he needs to bust Randall on something?
No, we had already set up that that the frats have their archives and they save papers for study purposes. That's what they do.
And no chance of bringing a Lucinda back in something like this, right? This was just Randall.
Lucinda, made she burnt her bridges. The bridges were burned there somehow, not by any of us. but the relationship with her and the company got burned.
You mean 90210 and Lucinda was burnt?
Yeah, probably a spelling company, bigger than that. Yeah, even probably with the spelling company. Something within the
Something about not coming
within
to
the
set.
hallways of Spelling
Yes.
Corps.
Understand.
Then the Mark Reese stuff. Yeah.
Well,
so
I want to say that thing that I told you about is I don't think it's going to happen, Larry. It's that thing I told you.
Fine.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah, but let's talk about that Mark Reese thing. This is such a fascinating topic for us because we've talked about it quite a bit here. You know that there's this actor and he gets fired. Is this? Do you know that Dalton James is going to be gone at this point, or are you still? Life is still in Dalton James.
What are we at here?
This is episode 12, and he left
this
his
is
job.
episode 12. This is in December.
You got 2 more episodes to.
Before he leaves.
Like he, I wonder if he had an option or if he was signed for the whole year. I think he was signed for the whole year, was my memory. And I would say that this is really probably the turning point where all of a sudden, like after we shot this episode, we got called up and had to change things.
Well, let me tell you, in this episode, it's awkward sauce. The two of them don't feel any. There's no chemistry between the actors. I feel like, and
is there a kiss or just a hug?
There is a hug, and the story is. Let's talk about the story aspect.
Yeah,
of it.
Awkward. Yeah,
it's going to be his birthday randomly. I love that birthdays just. Then some people are like, well, Mark Reese's birthday is on whatever date. You know what I mean? It doesn't celebrate this
December. Yeah.
Mark Reese's birthday.
We needed a way to get people together, probably, and probably just kind of play that fact that some people really hate surprise parties. But I mean, Kelly Taylor is really trying hard to, make this day special for him.
Yes, Kelly's.
She doesn't want to sleep with him. Mind you,
definitely not.
He wants to, again. That's the other elephant in the room, right? He's already been out with her a couple of times, and is expanding to really to share some intimacy. How else can we really know each other? So, but she's not there yet. This is episode 12. She probably met him in episode like 4 or 5 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So So it's getting to be the boiling point here. We got to decide.
I'm curious though, Larry, about whether or not you knew before this or not, because there isn't a kiss. So I'm curious if there was a kiss prior where, do you know what I mean? Where that note came down about there being a kissing problem.
I don't even think there was a kiss in the episode before this, because I just watched that, and that was when they got food poisoning. And I feel like they didn't kiss because they were both sick. And that scene where they were like lying in bed, like sick, was very like, there was a very big space between the two of them. Like you could tell that, and obviously they were sick, but like he said, I don't think
so we were delaying,
more kissing.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. I should have seen that episode, but, I don't know. It was getting close. Like what's the episode, with the dryer is the one that he goes. He goes.
Job is 14, and
that's Job.
Yeah, that's Job.
Oh, it's coming right up. Oh, yeah, we probably knew at this point. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
We probably.
Mm-hmm.
We would have done double ups. Don't forget too. Yeah, we probably. But it was sudden. When the exit of him was real sudden. So yeah, you wonder why Kelly Taylor was going down the road with this guy, and I guess she was.
That's what I was going to ask, because it was very. And in the beginning, when they said, she was like, "Oh, he's like a combination of."
Dylan
and Brandon,
right?
Colin,
and Claire and Donna were like, "Don't you think this is too fast?" And she was like, "No, I'm like head over here." And it was very like, "Why? Like he's not."
It's like when you grow up in Beverly Hills, there's something beyond Beverly Hills. It could be Bel Air, it could be this Orange County, and so that's the fascination that this is the next thing, and that's what Mark always represented. He had all the old connections. Mm-hmm. His family was. I modeled it after the Dart family, and we had as a friend a guy named Steve Dart, whose father was a member of the Reagan kitchen cabinet. Big industrialist. Yeah, so that was kind of, that's what we were going for. But looking at it now, I'm going like, why is she with this guy? He's such a Mr. Grumpy Pants. Like he's,
And I also found it interesting because she was so obviously this was what her relationship after Colin, but I also found it interesting because she put up with a lot that he did, and I feel like she wasn't that type of person. Like when Dylan would do something or Brandon would do something, she would like call them out on it, and he was kind of mean to her, and she was like, sorry. Like with the birthday party, she was like, I'm sorry that you didn't like the surprise. It was like he went to a different room to play video
I've never
games.
seen anybody behave
yeah,
on
I
that on
think
that
in a
level.
way, again, in the Dalton James's defense, the writing in this storyline probably made her dislike him because she disliked herself. She disliked the character we were asking her to play then, and it was again, we were trying to stall basically because we've got to get her and Brandon kind of rocking a bit a little bit later. We had some plans for that, and so it just didn't. This I have to take the responsibility for this failed storyline.
Well, I don't know if it's a failed storyline, but I do think
I mean,
the
there is
I
a great
do
line
think
though. I love the line in Job where she says, "You want to be? You're such a hurry to be a millionaire. Every time your phone rings, bet someone it's not me. You'll be right every time."
Love that.
but I do want to say I do think the Mark Reese character, he's really annoying. You know what I mean? So is it
Absolutely.
Dalton James, the actor, or is he really annoying, or is it a combination of him playing?
He's not charming. I guess he's not charming. His charm is not able to overplay that. I guess override it. No, he just seems unlikable. He got a nasally kind of thing, but but again, we've seen nasally characters work. I mean, it can be, I don't know. It just there wasn't a lightness to him, and it was always hard. Also, getting the new guys to mesh with our guys. Because they weren't. It was a tough group. And we did have Brandon and Mark. And the Mark character in the the TV station, so that was kind of good. But again, it was all once we got the word, I just set them against each other and we killed them basically. I guess he transferred out of CU. I can't. Did we ever cover that? He must have gone to that school in Orange County.
I do want to play a little speculative game there with you for a second, but Katie says, personally, I thought Mark Reese was a huge step up from Colin Robbins. I don't agree with that at all.
He was an artist, I mean, but Mark, he had been he was, he was urbane. He was, he was sophisticated in a certain way. Like in our mind, he was. Maybe Dalton didn't bring the sophistication we were hoping. Like we wanted her to, to see somebody who had lived a slightly different life than her, even a grander life.
Liz fired right back. No way. Colin was way better, even strung out on coke. Wow.
Jason Wild was so charming. Like he was just, I loved him. Even when he was like, obviously at the end, I was like, wow, I still loved that character. I thought he was.
Yeah, I mean, once we knew we weren't bringing him back, we just again, served the story. You're gonna have a high-speed chase and get in a lot of trouble. We're gonna chase you around the San Pedro docks and say goodbye to you.
I'm gonna play, Larry. I'm gonna play an ad, and I'm gonna try to stretch some things here. If you understand where I'm going with that, I'm going to play an ad, and we'll come back and we'll let Becca ask some more questions about this episode.
Well. When was the last time you checked out the Beverly Hills 90210 show shop? Because now it's loaded with so much more stuff. Did you ever want to join the gang at CU? Because now you can wear your official CU t-shirt. Or want to get into the fun with America's zip code? Represent with this cool swag. Or maybe you have an invite to the Peach Pit after dark and need the coolest shirt ever. We have loaded the store with so much more. So don't be a squeeze. Head over to Beverly Hills 90210showshop.com for all the latest goods.
Okay.
I'm a t-shirt on.
I did see that. I was all giggly when I saw it. So thank you very much for that, Becca. And you've got your Claire shirt on. So yeah.
Becca, have you seen the Kathleen Robertson series called Swimming with Sharks?
Yes, I watched it when it premiered on 15th of April. I thought it was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I was really
I'm
impressed.
really I told so many people to watch it and they were like, oh, and I was like, just watch it. Like, just watch it. I feel like it's not getting the recognition it really deserves.
I feel the same way.
That makes me
exactly
really
the same way.
upset because I think he's very talented. I mean, I've always known that before.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because it's on Roku? I mean, I don't want to come at Roku by any means. I love Roku. Roku's
even within
incredible.
Roku, they're not promoting it enough.
And I even said, I was like, it's free. Like, you don't have to pay for anything to get Roku. And people are like, oh, it's too much. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, there's Paramount, there's
It's the Roku
Netflix,
channel. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, it's not.
It's a free app.
Exactly. Like, you just have to download it and sign in. Yeah.
It's sort of annoying because it is really good. We all really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, she's obviously shown her skill as a writer and showrunner and producer here. So it would be great. I mean, it's great. It should be on Netflix. It should be people should be.
It will, I think. I mean, the cast is unbelievable. The cast is fantastic. The girl from Mad Men growing up playing this naughty girl.
See, it's funny because I'm watching Mad Men now. So watching her play John Draper's daughter and then play like in that part is very interesting.
That was a good series.
That was an amazing series. You're right. But I just feel badly because I feel like if it was on Netflix or Hulu or as something like that, more people would be watching it. Plus, it would probably get boosted on that. Like you said, Roku's not really even promoting it on their own channel.
Because they just got it from the Quibi thing. But
I mean, it is possible that it's doing great, and we have no idea what we're talking about.
No, I don't think it is. I'd like to think it is, but I mean, because my one friend in that business, he's not talking about it enough. Let's get back to our show here.
Well, Becca, do you have any questions that you want to ask Larry regarding this episode?
So I have a question about. So I think you've talked about how you wouldn't have Brandon run a small newspaper if you were still there in season 8. But I'm interested because I forget what episode it was, but we learned that through Valerie, who's trying to stir up drama, that Kelly applied to go to Columbia for grad school. And that was in season 7. So what would you have had her do in season 8? I feel like she kind of didn't do a lot until she started running the boutique with Donna. And I feel like there was so much progression with her character, especially in this season with like, you have the Joey, the boy that she found on their porch in the later season 7. You remember that in Storm Warning?
Sort of.
Yeah, sort of. And you have like, she tried to make amends with Valerie with the abortion. I just feel like she had so much progression in season 7. And I wonder what you would have done with season 8 if you were still there.
So she was, I don't, as much as I'd like to think that we could have a cross-country storyline, which I was very fond of pitching that at one point, with the modern world of long distance and faxes, like how families can keep together, I sold a Big Apple, Big Orange, a pilot, about a family on the West Coast, like a surf family, a squire of Soho, kind of an artist in Soho, and the mother and the grandparents in Nebraska, Iowa, whatever. But no, probably wouldn't have had her go to Columbia, but she would have gone on to a grad school and some kind of probably like a good hospital in LA. She'd be living like on Westwood high rise there and have a nice place, and wouldn't be in a hurry because she'd be going to school and having this experience there, and there'd be handsome doctors there, and there'd be some kissing.
Back to Mark Reese, Larry. You said before, what would you have done with Mark Reese in the post 14th episode where you were plotting things? So this came as a curveball to you.
Well,
but doesn't Mark Reese actually kind of end?
We had nothing for
way?
her to do after Mark left. I mean, I have to go look at those episodes. I remember thinking like, oh my God, we have to get to 6 episodes. We have to find something for him. No, I think we were hoping that there was some heat there, that it could become, again, we have the triangle. You have Mark, Brandon, and Kelly, and Mark and Brandon work at the thing there. We wouldn't have had the dryer thing, would have found some other way. Maybe they both win part of it, or there's something else that we would have kept it going. And she would have had this other life where she'd be like all of a sudden at the White House with his family meeting the president.
Got it.
She'd be in a different stratosphere than everyone else. Than we've seen. Again, Beverly Hills is just one level. There's levels beyond it. Bel Air and then old Orange County, old money Orange County.
One of the things that surprised me about this episode too is that Tracy is not really in it. You know what I mean? She's barely.
Don't forget, Tracy is not Susan Keats. Susan Keats was an activist, a journalist, an intelligentsia. Tracy is a talking head. She's on the news. She doesn't write the news. She just presents the news. And that's what, Jill Novak really brought a lot of simple, charm to her, As we see, she's a country girl. She's, middle of California. And, yeah, I mean, she cares about Brandon, but she's not going to, do what Susan did in the, where the Valerie has harassed by the professor. And all of a sudden, Susan Keats turns the whole story there. So, yeah, Tracy, there wasn't a part there for Tracy.
I loved her. I loved that character, and I feel like that's an unpopular opinion, but I think besides Kelly, I think she was one of my favorites for Brandon. I just think that
You're saying Tracy.
Yeah, I thought she was, and so many people, I said that in some Facebook group, and people came at me and were like, "You have no idea what you're talking about." I was like,
you gotta be careful. Yeah, I mean, she's not considered. Yeah, she's not as well thought of as others.
No.
But I mean, again,
the comparison is
that she was not. I mean, she could have. Again, we had other characters like that. Certainly, Kathleen Robertson would come in.
Sure.
And you realize, we can do other things with her. She's not, but within Tracy, there was no other, we couldn't put her with anybody else, really. That wasn't just kind of working.
But
potentially Mark Reese. If he had,
we couldn't put her with Mark Reese, exactly, if we like Mark. And again, it could have worked out that he became a real part of the show. But I think the actor, the quality he had, and maybe it was like a Nicholson quality, which is a little bit sometimes unlikable. He kind of draws that thing out. I don't know. It's just
you're saying Mark Reese does.
Yeah, I mean, Nicholson has another charm besides that kind of that drawl that he uses. But he just became a whine for him, unhappy, because like how grumpy he was all the time, especially around her, and partly because he's got blue balls. Again, we put him in a situation where we're not going to have her sleep with him because certainly they might have slept with each other. You know what? I wonder now if that whole storyline about being sick. I wonder if that came out of that meeting with Spelling where we just said, you know what? They're not going to sleep together. We're going to have them sleep together right there. Instead, they're going to get sick and not sleep together. I think that might have been
the funny part is in that scene, he's giving her a massage and is talking to her like they're going to do something. And then she's like, "I'm going to be sick," and then gets up and runs away. It's literally it almost happened.
I have to. That was the episode before this. Should have seen that one. Yeah, I have a feeling that might have been the one where we turned it. They were going to sleep together. Perhaps that episode. Instead, we just got them sick and they just rolled down at 14, paid him off his money because he probably would have had a 13 episode commitment, maybe too. Maybe he had an option coming up.
All right, Larry, that's done. That's a scratch on that other thing, and so I think we've covered all of this here this week, right?
Yes. Yes, and it seems to be. I want to promote my book one more time to the fans. This is the newest Max Dean, the end of the trilogy. But get on board the journey. Say Mello, Cayuga, and find them on Amazon. They're all there now.
Wait, so how do we? That's. Yeah, and you were just saying before we came on, Becca was talking about how much she loves the books.
Yes. So in March I got all three because I was sick and I read one in the one weekend and then I read the next weekend and then the third the weekend after that. And then I left a review on Amazon. So everybody leave a review on Amazon.
That's right.
And then so I was saying that it's the type of genre that it is, I feel like is something that my dad would really like. And so I told him when I go home this weekend to visit that I'm going to give him the three to read, and then I'll tell him he needs to leave a review on Amazon too. And then
they're pretty raunchy. It's very brave of you because they're pretty raunchy. I'll tell you, my family when they read them, they really they go, "Why are they so raunchy, Dad?"
I did preface that. I did preface it and say that it was, and he was like, okay, like it wasn't. I think
I finally, Jessica Jamino told me I had to put a warning after she read the second one. So the third one has a little bit of a warning.
And our friend Lisa says they are raunchy, and
I'm intensely proud of them. They're the best things I've written.
Lisa says they are raunchy, and I love it.
Oh, good for Lisa.
Larry,
make sure you read the last one.
Go ahead.
I can't imagine writing another.
Go ahead,
Becca.
So, I have one more question. So you said that earlier. You said that there were 6 episodes, and we're trying to figure out what to do with Kelly. Is that why, like, in the very end of the season is when she has like her and Brandon get pregnant, and then she has the miscarriage, and then she's like trying to find the boy that's Joey on their porch trying to get.
Oh my God, she has a miscarriage in this thing. I don't even remember this.
It was the very.
Yeah, I think we were floundering a bit there. That might be the weakness of 7. Again, unexpected, just didn't unforeseen consequences when Mark left.
I think everybody had a big thing, and she didn't get. There was no.
That's probably. Yes, that's exactly. I know we didn't. We didn't have anything. No, it was a slow way down. That's really what happened. I mean, I have to go look at those episodes. So I don't even remember that she had a miscarriage. She gets pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we have the last episodes. Probably because you're trying to dissociate with the feelings you had during those episodes. But they were
I was trying to please everybody. I'm casting, the Canadian band for Jason, Bare Naked Ladies. Just trying to, keep everybody happy.
We do need
Power
to cover
Man 5000 is banned from his record label.
We do need to cover Graduation Day, and particularly the last portion of that. So that's something
that was special. Yeah, I mean that was a real privilege to be able to write that.
What do we want?
Felt like I was there.
What do we want for that episode? Do we want Tori to come join us? Is that important? Do we want?
I think so. Or Jason.
Jason Priestley,
the director of it.
He directed both of those episodes, so maybe we want one of them, or maybe Brian. Right.
That's where we had our Spice Girls fiasco.
Right. Oh well, he will definitely not be coming on the podcast to talk about that.
He might.
Yeah, I mean it's all water under the bridge now. All right, so let me get to work on Graduation Day. Becca, anything else for you?
I don't think so.
It's great. By the way, you did a wonderful job here. It was really nice having you.
Way to
keep
it up.
This was one of my favorite episodes, and like I said, season 7's my favorite season. I think, Larry, despite how you said that the ending was very difficult, I think your last season was definitely the most memorable for me, and the storylines, are ones that I resonate with, and I thank you for your work. I think it's really, I know it wasn't just you, but it was great.
No, I think we guided the characters in a good way, and there's some memorable characters. I wish we could get Maya Campbell. I tried again to get Maya Campbell.
Oh,
I wish we can get Jason Wiles. I wish we could.
Jason keeps saying he wants to do it. Then when we put him to a date, he won't back away. But we'll get him. Maya has had her struggle with addiction, but I think she's okay now.
I love the episode when she comes back.
We have to pay her.
Kelly team up.
She plays.
Yeah.
What's that?
When she comes back in the very end of season 7 and
Heaven Sent.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful episode. That moment at the end, where Brandon and Kelly, we just start heating them back up there, and she brings them together. Yeah, no, that was very satisfying. I was, I was happy with that.
In season 7, you have Jason dressed up as the German jeweler.
Again, that was the Phil episode. Phil wrote that with this ring. We should definitely do that episode. That's a big episode, and it starts off a little bit surreally. We have her kind of sitting in this big chair by the beach doing a little bit of a voiceover. It's just kind of a special episode. It really was well received at the time too.
You have to rewatch season 7, Larry. It's really
good. We're getting through it. We're getting through it.
Seeing this one, I had forgotten the sharpness of the Randall and Brandon stuff. I mean, they really go at each other, and again, Nick Pryor playing Chancellor Arnold gets to do all these reactions. He's such a great pro, and we wish him well.
I love the shock and awe, by the way, of the panel when the Perry Mason moment comes through. You know what I mean?
Hold on.
You got to gavel. You got to gavel. You know what I mean?
And again,
So,
Claire has the technicality while we can still introduce evidence. We can.
Well, you know what?
A witness can come back and revisit it.
I did want to ask you, when you came up with some of this like college law, the language, you know, do you remember coming up with like why this what's the policy was for Chancellor Arnold? No. Okay, Larry, we've lost Larry. We have lost Larry.
Oh no, Larry's frozen.
Larry is totally frozen. He's totally frozen. But I thought this was great, Becca, by the way. I thought
thank you for having me on.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I think you'll be back more often if you'd like to come back.
Yes, I'd love to. Season 7, any season. I love all the seasons.
Hold on one second here. I think Larry's trying to get back in. Let me remove him from the setup.
Poor Larry.
Poor Larry.
It's the East Coast. That Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Well, and I think what Lisa says here is true. Blame the wind for Larry's.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very windy on the East Coast.
This has been a really fun week, and Becca, please come back soon, okay? We will have a blast and more things to talk about. Yeah. So thank you so much. We will be back next week on the 90210 show. I have no idea what we're going to cover, but it will be fun for sure.
Bye, Larry. I don't know where
Wherever you are. Later. Bye-bye.